Hey guys, good morning. I want to welcome you to another live stream here to our yearly Bible study that we're going through. Today, I want to pause and just share some concerns that I have in 2024 going into this election. A lot of times people can't make the proper decisions because they're unaware of all the facts. We're talking about historical facts today, things that have already taken place that should be a concern for you and your family in 2024. The first thing I'd like to talk about, I just released a book that is just selling like crazy. It's called Agenda 2030 and the Last Generation. It is a book talking about the window of time that we're living in today. And a lot of people really don't even understand that Agenda 2030 is still being enforced. That's probably the most important thing I can share with you. That Agenda 2030, now they're saying there's an Agenda 2025 that Trump's supposed to be involved in, which I would recommend that you look into that. I don't have the time to share it with you. He denies he had, but J.D. Vance was a part of establishing that. So good or bad, you need to look up that proposition or the plan or the Agenda 2025. It's all under those codes, but you need to look it up so you can educate yourself. We've totally forgotten about COVID-19, the vaccines, the lockdowns, and warp speed. You must put your mind in that. You need to come out of cognitive dissonance and deliberate denial of the things that have happened in the past and not expect a different future. If you keep doing the same things, you're going to keep doing the same results. So we need to examine what happened, in the last 4 years, and we need to try to deter that, however we can do that regarding these issues that we're talking about. Another thing is, here we are approaching another election. And do you know anybody that's been sick lately? All of a sudden at the DNC and some of these other large gatherings, they're talking about these spreaders, these mass spreaders, these people that have, projected COVID-19 back out into the atmosphere. And you hear of so many people now with these horrible head colds, sinus congestion getting in their chest, and people that are pregnant becoming sick, and the concerns with their children, and all these things need to be a concern to us. The depopulation plan has not been stopped. The depopulation plan has not been stopped. I'd even like to mention a little bit about the Roe versus Wade issue. We had a person on our show, which is crossingpaths.org, who was a pro-life representative, and she said, look, if they overturn Roe versus Wade, that does not mean that abortions are going to stop. And she was exactly right, because what they did was okay, they overturned Roe versus Wade, but they still let the states make the decision if they want to, legalize abortion, or if they could still do abortions in every state. So the abortions are still running rampant. And a lot of people think we won that victory, and that's all over. That's not true either. So you need to think about that. What do you know actually about the 5G, which are now the 10G towers, 5G and 10G towers, and 15-minute cities? I want to say this about the 5 and 10G towers that are everywhere now, these great phone services that you have that don't work. I can be in my house and I get all these different modules and all these different hookups, and they don't work. My own phone service worked better. Why? Because 5G and 10G have absolutely nothing to do with your phones. It was a setup to track and control and trace every single one of us that's been implemented. Let me ask you another question. You need to give me a thumbs up or like this if something has been waking you up at about 3 o'clock in the morning around every single night. This has been happening to people all over the world. Something's waking them up in the middle of the night. Well, long story short, I bought a soundboard probably about 3 years ago. And all of a sudden, my soundboard kept going off at 3 o'clock in the morning. I thought, why would it do that? Well, a good friend of mine that works for an electric company said that they were experimenting through the 5G towers that would be eventually 10G, which has happened, that they were sending these electromagnetic pulses into people's homes, and they increase them so much that they're causing people to wake up. I'm just saying, you need to check that out. I'm talking today about things that you need to know, or things that you don't know that you should, in order so you could confront reality. Do you know anything about the CBDC? That stands for the Central Bank Digital Currency System, that is already being implemented throughout all of Europe, where they are switching to a cashless society or a digital society. And a lot of you guys are into the digital already, and you're thinking, oh, that's a great thing, a digital society, a cashless society. Well, that's another thing that's already in Revelation 13. We're already past Revelation 12. It talks about the one world religion, talks about cashless society, talks about wars and rumors of wars, and all these things are happening. The World Economic Forum, the United Nations, and the World Health Organization are still in power. These people that we were told were bad people are still in power. They're still doing what they want to do to people all over the world. If they would come out tomorrow and make a declaration that you couldn't buy or sell unless you did your obedience, your submission, your worship to the World Declaration, the World Health Organization, and you must remain 6 feet apart. I wonder what that number has anything to do with. 666. I'm just saying, you need to wake up and really see where we are and see the things that are being implemented in the world today. These people are still in power. None of them have been arrested. You really need to be aware of who the 7 heads and the G10 that Revelation 13 talks about. Who is that? Who is that beast? We are in the prophetic window of time that was divinely declared by God. The 7 heads are the G7. It is on my Facebook page. You need to look that up. And the D10 are the Democratic 10. You must educate yourself on these organizations that are ruling the world. Look up the G7. It is on my Facebook profile page. Look it up. I'm very concerned about the 2024 election. I believe we're in a divinely appointed prophetic window of time. I could prove that by taking you through by Matthew 24, and especially linking that with Psalms 90, verse 10. Because the disciples asked Jesus, they said, tell us, Lord, what will be the sign of thy coming and the end of the age? And Jesus said, this generation will not pass from the time that Israel becomes a nation or the fig tree puts forth her leaves. Israel became a nation in 47, 48. We know that a generation, according to Psalms 90, verse 10, is 70 years. So that takes us to 2017, 18, where all hell began to break loose. I say that could have been, I don't want people falsely accusing me of saying a day or claiming a date. I'm telling you, we're in a prophetic window of time. So that 2017 could have been the beginning of sorrows. The January 6th debacle of the election could have been the beginning of a 7-year period where some things are going to happen on the earth. And if that was possible, then if you do your math, 42 months from that election would have brought us to July of 2024. Now, why would that be important? Why would it be important to know when the 3.5-year period marked? Because that's when there was a assassination attempt. If it was real, if it was fake, if it was attempted but totally debauched, if it was the worst case of Secret Service protection in the history of mankind, whatever the deflections and the distractions are, that was exactly at the 3.5-year mark, exactly at the 42-year mark when that took place. So that is why this election in 2024 has me concerned, because it's very important when we look at the people who are running for this position, what is going to happen after they're elected? If Kamala is elected, will there be a riot? Will there be a riot? If Trump is elected, will there be a civil war? If Kamala is elected, will there be a civil war? Very important fact for you to understand is if Russia is still at war in Ukraine, which they could have stopped that war in the first month. It's going on now for 2.5 years. Now Israel's at war. They shouldn't even be at war, but they are. The United States can be drug into either one of them at the drop of a hat. And if they are, only thing they have to do is declare martial law, because we are in the process of going into, or we're into, a presidential election. Now, what's the importance of that? If they do declare martial law, they can declare that there will be no election until the dust is settled. That is extremely important for you to be thinking and praying about. Also, be aware that the Abraham Accords, which is the Middle East peace treaty between the Jews and the Palestinians, that peace treaty was signed. You need to be aware of that and look at the people who were involved in that. And then you also need to be aware that there was a one world religion headquarters that was established in Abu Dhabi, where they built a Jewish temple, they built a church for Catholicism, and they built a mosque for Islam. That is now the world headquarters for the new world religion, for the one world order that they're in the process of implementing. I think these are very important topics. There's 7 of them, possibly 8, that I just shared with you this morning, that I really encourage you to do your own research so you can make your own educated decisions on what is really happening on the earth today. Listen, I love every single one of you. I'll keep bringing you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help us God. So until next time, love and God bless. Please share these links. Help me get the truth out. Love every single one of you. Remember, the King is coming.